So you unmute.
Great. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Expressions. We have with us Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, who's the chairman of AICTE, possibly one of the most difficult jobs there is currently right now in the education system. And with him, we have Dr. S. Vaidhyasubramaniam, who's the Vice Chancellor of SASTRA deemed university and an alumnus of Harvard Business School and quite a noted management expert. Dr. Sahasrabudhe, I'd like to begin with you. Firstly, of course, what is life like in Delhi after the rather peaceful existence I think you had in Pune?
No, I think both are equally peaceful. I don't find it, as far as location is concerned. I was in the far northeast in Arunachal Pradesh for about 8 years, 11 years in
Yes,
IIT.
You were a professor there, right?
Yeah. I am still a professor in IIT Guwahati, but on deputation here.
Right.
So I think I have gone through all places. So I find that when you are amidst the work, you don't realize where you are, and therefore you have no problems at all.
Right. That's wonderful to hear, because currently you must be under a lot of pressure, sir, because the whole education system seems to be in somewhat of a disarray due to the pandemic. Sessions are not beginning in time, exams are not being able to be staged. The entire way of teaching has to be re-engineered in a way, so to speak. So what are the biggest challenges that you're facing currently, sir?
The biggest challenge is changing the attitude of people.
Right.
And that is the challenge, because this pandemic is not in our hands. No one has imported it by willingness. So it has come. Right. So we have to live with it. And therefore, whether the government announces lockdowns and then red zones where you are not allowed to move and colleges not to be opened, I think we have to go by all that what is happening. And after the initial all those issues, slowly things are opening up as well. And therefore, we should not worry too much. What has happened is suddenly, because this came as a surprise to everyone, and this kind of lockdown was never heard of in our lifetime.
Exactly.
And therefore, it was suddenly like a shock for everyone. And therefore, to get adjusted, it took time. Some of us adjusted very quickly. Some of them are taking time, and some of them have still not adjusted and still cribbing about various things. So I think that is where we stand today. But having said that, I think most important thing is there is a transformation, there is a change which has happened, and people have slowly and steadily starting to accept it. I remember myself, forget about others. In the first few days after the pandemic, I was never wearing the mask. I said nothing will happen. No sort of confidence was there in many people. Yeah. And when we realized that there is a big fear out of this, today when there is quite safe also, we still are trying to take precautions of highest order that is possible. So I think we have changed, we have transformed in a big way. As far as education is concerned, many institutions had problems of online education being not possible. In somewhere it was possible, but students were not able to join. I think these are challenges we are all going through. And therefore, our job is becoming difficult, because I used to receive about 150, 200 mails every day, and they have jumped 100, 500 per day, and I try to reply to each one of them. That is my problem. And that
500 mails, sir?
And of course, some of them I have started deleting now, because the content is safe. 40 students will say that exam should not be held. Some people say the fee is not, being refunded. And from the same college, some of the students think that if they write in bulk, some 100 students writing the same mail probably will carry more weight than only one person. But I have been telling everyone that even one single mail which is having value, I respect it and I take cognizance of that and I answer to that. But if 100 people write the same thing, I will answer to one of them and delete all of the other mails. But I have to do at least reading and know what is that content. So it takes some time actually out of my schedule.
Right. So is there an opportunity that India has currently in this crisis to actually prevent the outflow of students? And because we hear of campuses abroad perhaps not opening until next summer and doing online classes, is there an opportunity somehow for us to actually get those dollars in a way back to us?
No, I think in a way, yes, because there has been a lot of disturbance everywhere, and therefore many universities abroad are not opening up,
Yeah,
and they are either doing online or they are deferred joining times, and therefore many bright students would not like to lose an year.
yeah,
Because this pandemic is such that we never know whether in another 6 months some change will happen.
right,
And therefore there is no guarantee about it. And therefore many bright students will try to take admissions in some of the good schools in India, whether it is IITs of the world, IISc of the world, many good private universities like SASTRA and also IIMs. I think many of our students certainly will get into Indian system rather than going out now at this juncture. And therefore, saving in terms of dollar exchange, which was happening, will reduce to some extent. But some people will take risk and wait for a matter of
right,
6 months and may decide still to go out. These
right,
are possibilities. We can't rule out anything. But I think our chances have brightened up. Number one. And
right,
number two, the challenge which we had in terms of online education, in terms of creating course content online, except a few IITs, IIMs were leading in that. Many of the other institutions were not prepared for that. I think they're all getting geared up. And the bright spots that are existing in even tier two, tier three, I think some of the lectures very interesting from a very small place.
right.
Online, it has become viral. I think there are, the diamonds which were lying idle here and there. They are getting shine now, and probably we will have better education for all others also through various mechanisms.
Is there anything that caught your eye, Dr. Sahasrabudhe, in terms of these diamonds in the rough, so to speak? Some teachers who caught your eye and said something fantastic which you'd like to popularize?
Yeah, we are doing that. Actually, in fact, what we have said is an open invitation for faculty that if they have good quality content and also their delivery is good, they should give us and the quality, the way a person is expressing, so that it becomes a good quality lecture and people become interested in that. I
Right,
think we will have more and more faculty doing this job. This is one. Secondly, I think I should mention here that we all are dealing with all these courses in English, the
right.
entire SWAYAM portal. If
Yeah,
you look at 2,500 courses, but now we have taken up a task of translating them in major 8 languages of India, and that's a very big
right,
change. Actually. The reason is many students in the formative years when they join the college, they are not so confident in English. They would have studied till 10th, 11th, 12th in their own language. For example, Tamil, Marathi, Kannada, Bengali. And therefore, they feel diffident actually at that point in time till they catch up. So some of these initial courses and the foundational courses, if they are available in multiple Indian languages, they will pick up faster, and then that will have a great value addition to our SWAYAM portal itself.
wonderful. So we could have a sort of Indian TED Talks, which is dedicated to some of these professors, perhaps.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Great. Doctor,
They could be. Yeah, no, I think TED Talks is one part of it, but I said several things. Maybe some kind of skill development. It
right,
may be communication. It may be even using of some tools. Actually,
right.
many of these things are possible online, and many people are giving such kind of tools to us free
Right.
of cost in this COVID time.
Wow.
And there is a lot of enriching which is happening. I was very much pleased that after opening up such a portal where 48 odd companies gave their products free of cost to AICT to disseminate to all the colleges, within just 3 days, more than 1 crore hits were there, 10
Wow.
million hits. And
Wow.
finally, the people, after investigating, at least about 10 lakh students are using these products. Of
Right.
course, 49 products on an average, 10 lakh students are using. I think it's a phenomenal change which has happened.
Right. Dr. Vaidya, may I ask you to step in here and talk a little about innovation, because that's something that Dr. Sahasrabudhe touched upon as well.
Yeah. So thank you very much for laying down the context. Now, in the dimension of innovation, in what is emerging to be a system of education where definitely there should be a calibrated response in the online space, how can we nurture this innovation in pedagogy? Because all the Swayam NPTEL content creation has been so far in creating a content and then access to the content. Now, how can we institutionalize this mechanism, given the fact that the finance minister's announcement during the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, where 100 universities will now be empowered to give online degree programs? How, as an institutional mechanism, can we nurture this innovative pedagogy that can align well with the online education policy?
So, Vaidya, you are also one of the university's vice chancellors. So, you know the pluses and minuses of that. So, while Madam Sitaraman in the budget speech mentioned about 100 universities being allowed, there was a caveat. She said that we should start with quality institutions, that is top ranked institutions. So it should not be opened up for anyone and everyone, and thereby degenerate the quality of education being imparted. That is number one. Number two, not all courses possibly can be given in an online mode. Some course of, say, the domain of arts, maybe sociology, maybe economics, and some part of philosophy may be very easily given in the form of an online degree program. When it comes to some of the courses and programs where experiment are very important, learning through an experiment, online experiment is very important. In that case, probably there are challenges, and therefore we should be treading the path very cautiously. I'm telling, even in the field of humanities and social sciences, for example, psychology, possibly may require still not online, but sometimes face-to-face mode of teaching learning. Whereas some other domains may be fine. Commerce, you can do it very easily. Management, you can do very easily. But some aspects of management, again, you will require probably face-to-face mode. I think, and that when it comes to science, chemistry, physics, or for that matter in engineering, maybe aeronautics engineering or civil engineering, I think a lot of content is actually hands-on, looking at the experiment and using those tools. And where such a thing is required, I think we must be very cautious. One good thing is, forget about online full-fledged degrees, but AICTE, UGC, MHRD is seized of the matter of increasing the number of credits to be earned through Swayam, that is MOOCs platform, from 20% to 40%. So that gradual increase in terms of percentage is also happening. And that will lead a way to full online degrees in the years to come. And even in those domains where we are today slightly restrictive, today slightly we are hesitant, I think they will also be overcome. But many times this question is asked that these experiments can never be done in an online mode. But I beg to differ. There are experiments which can very easily be done in an online mode. I will give a lot of examples that simulation-based experiments where a software is created and an experiment is actually simulated. You don't have an equipment, but anyone, anywhere can start using that tool and can tweak with the parameters. I think two great advantages in simulation-based experiments are, at a time, on a physical equipment, only one set of people can use it. That is one group or one individual student. Whereas in a simulation-based experiment, simultaneously 10 lakh people can do it. So I think it is more empowering, number one. Number two, the changing of the parameters is much more flexible. You have to digitally change the parameter, the speed that you are giving, the electric voltage that you are giving, the current that you are feeding. I think you can change this parameter instantaneously. Whereas to physically change that and get the data from that. So I think there are clear, distinct advantages in some kind of virtual experiments, but there are certain disadvantages. The disadvantage lies in actually running of the things. For example, I often give the example of pilot. So if someone is trained only on a simulator for flying, and then suddenly one day you say that you take this aircraft and start flying, I think neither he will be confident, and people who are sitting in the aircraft will also be confident in sitting there. And therefore, he has to sit as a co-pilot, learn from the pilot for some time, some flying hours, and then start taking off actually. But the entire training that was given during this simulation-based training comes handy because he's fully prepared actually to see the difficulties that are going to be encountered. So I think there is a judicious mix. So I think therefore blending is what we talk about today. Rather than calling full online degree program, we should start talking about blended learning program and gradually change the blend. See, we have different types of blends. We take apple juice, we take mixed fruit juice with different combination. So we should have something similar here too. So how much theory, how much practice, how much online, how much, and gradually move forward in this direction.
Given, yeah, I fully agree with you. Given the balance that we require in a system like this, and also since you began saying that the biggest challenge is the people, the attitude of the people, and now that there is also a chance that we might move from the current levels of 20% to 40% online. How again, since we are going to border on innovation, how can we make this a collective responsibility? That way, let's, for example, say one course being taught by two faculty members, one from the IIT, other from a different institution. That way, there is also, an osmosis of best practices. And then the faculty also get trained over a period of time. Institutions also become independent and they can start creating their own courseware to contribute for a bigger purpose like this. So can we innovatively also create a crowdsourcing mechanism of creating content as we move forward?
We are doing crowdsourcing for the translation, which I mentioned in the beginning. So in the 8 languages, no IIT faculty will be able to translate all these courses into different languages. So we need the support of faculty and also.
How can we be original contributors? How can other faculty members?
I'm coming back to that. So I said, yeah, I understand Vaidya. So I think the first step was translation was also supposed to be done by them. It's impossible for them to do it, and therefore we are opening up and then crowdsourcing. Number one. Number two, there are already a couple of courses where people from IIT and people from some of these universities, for example, one course is going to come and you will be surprised. I'm not mentioning it's, I don't want to take the thunder out, So faculty from NSIT in Delhi, it's now a university. Netaji Subhas Institute of State Government College, it converted into university, along with IIT Jammu, have created a course, and that would be absolutely not only theoretical, but during the class there will be a lot of experimentation. I think even IIT faculty have not done such an experiment. I think we are getting a lot of talent, and as I said, gems are there, diamonds are there everywhere. We have to only mine them properly and then shape them properly. Well, most of the diamonds, unless you are given proper shape, it will not shine actually. So I think that is the job that regulator, facilitator will have to continue to do. And we are already seized of the matter. And few things are already happening. So I think more so in the beginning.
So now if I want to just step outside the orbit of this institutional framework, now how can we again capture the resources that are available outside educational institutions? Now, how are we going to get those who are experts from the industry, those who are experts, who are entrepreneurs, those who are in fact are subject matter experts but not formally educated? They can also be contributors. So are you also thinking of capturing that type of knowledge through a framework that goes outside the formal educational institution orbit?
Vaidya, it's very important. In fact, our entire NEET portal, which I have referred earlier also, National Educational Alliance for Technologies, is actually a paid service. Actually, a student has to buy the seat and then go through that. And these are all artificial intelligence-based personalized learning. So depending on the status of where you stand today in terms of that course or subject, that tool will take you forward in learning higher levels of learning. Actually, that is what it is. And it's a paid one. And therefore, what we did as the government, both MHRD, AICTE, is to identify good companies, good products. And after every 4 students buy this product, the company has to give 1 seat free. And this one seat, we will give it to socially deprived sections of the society, be it SC, ST, or economically those who are poor below a particular income, will get it free. So while taking care of, not that because I'm well-to-do, I will be able to get that, but it can be also available for others too. Actually, that is what we started with. But now many companies have come forward on their own, giving it free of cost. Actually, entire product itself for at least a couple of months in the beginning during COVID crisis. Some of them may continue beyond that as well. So I think that is one part. But the challenge really that exists, what you said is we are certainly taking care of getting course material from many companies, including whether it is Google, whether it is Apple, whether it is Microsoft, whether it is Amazon. These are all possible, and we are already onboarding them into AICTE's lectures and all that. The trouble where it comes, I will tell you. When we say that these credits also can be transferred in terms of university examination, there is a challenge. I think that model we will have to slowly build up. The reason is those universities, whether it is IITs or even a general university, they are part of the system. They are accountable to AICTE, UGC, and MHRD because they are formed by an act or they are connected with us. And if a faculty is floating a course and commits that he is taking that forward for credit transfer, and suppose suddenly somewhere in between he leaves it, and we have a system in place that university will identify another faculty who can continue and complete that, and therefore student is not left in the lurch. Whereas in a private company, if a person gives a lecture and you credit that course, and after 2 months, many of them change the jobs. In fact, the attrition rate is very high in private companies than in educational institutions. I find 90% of the people continue to be there in the educational institution for quite some time. Attrition is very little, whereas in industry, turnaround is very high. So who will take care of the student? So we are responsible to students. And therefore, the lectures may be given by the industry people.
Okay.
Model, which is again a blended model, a mixed model, a hybrid model, which we will have to evolve.
Okay. Now, this is insofar as creating the content is concerned. Now, if we just take the next logical step forward in terms of assessment. Now, one of the biggest challenges that we are facing in this online, and especially which is very current, is now students are also outsmarting the system. So they are also very intelligent. So when you want to conduct your assessments online, they know how to beat the system. So we'll have to be one step ahead of the student. So what type of challenges you foresee, and how do you think as a policy maker you will address these types of issues so that ethical compliance in assessment when we are also talking about online, how can that be countered? How can we create an innovative framework so that we also have the entire whole 9 yards covered? It's not just content creation and access, but also complete with a very foolproof assessment methodology as well.
Yeah, you rightly pointed out the evaluation or examination is one of the important components of the education system. And there are various ways by which people have adopted and started using it. One of them, in fact, I will go back, our all entrance examinations, by the way, in the last few years have been all online in a way.
Yeah.
But they are proctored online. See, the computer lab is hired by TCS, for example, and the actual examination is continuously taking place.
But
students are doing online only.
But there, please.
I'm just coming back to that.
No, 1 minute, because you talked about entrance. I'm reminded of, I don't want to name a secretary who said those MCQ types, the student is trained to eliminate the wrong answers. So that's how the student training is for those. Do you agree with that? And how do you view that?
No, I think that part will come when I talk about sometimes JEE. We always not select the right thing, but we eliminate the bad ones actually some way and then get out with some numbers. Anyway, that is a different matter altogether. But in the online examination, even though students are sitting side by side, the examination is first proctored in the entrance examination. There is an invigilator who is standing there actually looking at it. Secondly, the questions are not coming in the same sequence to all the students. They are same, say 100 questions are there in the question paper. The question number 1 for one will be question number 25 for another one, maybe question number 37 for the third candidate, and therefore they come so randomly at a different pace that unless you have all the 100 at your disposal, you don't know the answers, and therefore people have been able to use that. That is number one. But technology has evolved so much that, and the cost of the cameras which are associated with our PCs and laptops have fallen down so much that proctored examination by not individuals. In fact, individuals may fail. The camera will not fail. So there are already tools which have been established where you sit before a camera. Now I'm sitting before a camera and I'm talking to you. If by chance while speaking here, I look here and there for more than 10 seconds, the computer will stop the examination itself.
Yeah.
So to that extent, technology has evolved, and therefore probably cheating in such system is not possible.
I agree with that.
Huh?
I agree with that. I recently had that experience with my son, Dr. Sahasrabudhe, where the camera is so quick to point out a malpractice. Even if you're looking sideways, it gets it immediately. It's better than actually being in an examination hall. It's quite amazing. Dr. Sahasrabudhe, just a couple of questions I'd like to bring in and then again go across to Dr. Vaidya. We have some people asking, is there any change in curriculum that's going to come about to suit the new post-COVID learning? Is there going to be a permanent change?
In the curriculum?
Yes.
See, the change in the curriculum is continuous process. So it is not just because of post-COVID.
Right.
Even otherwise, even if COVID had not occurred,
yeah,
if you remain with the same curriculum for decades, I think we are creating not good products, useless people actually.
Right.
So I think therefore curriculum change was and now also is necessary change, which is a constant change.
Right.
And maybe the frequency may change with the program to program. Right. For example, I will tell you examples of computer science and electronics. Maybe every year you need to change many of the courses and content of that. Right. When it comes to, say, civil engineering and mechanical engineering, you may wait for about 2-3 years, doesn't matter. Right. When it comes to maybe arts and science and other things, maybe it may be a little more, but constant change in the curriculum is a foregone conclusion. If you don't do it, I think we are producing products which are not useful to society, not useful for industry, not useful for themselves as well. And therefore, I think post-COVID business you don't bring in. But the nature of teaching learning process can change in a big way.
Right.
I think that is what we need to discuss in terms of how we handle the pool of classes.
So there's an additional associated question from Kalpana. Will classrooms also be different when colleges reopen?
Yeah, they're likely to be different because if the social distancing norm announced by the government continues and the infection continues to spread, right. I think we may have to reduce the class strength, which used to be, say, about 50 or 60, down to half of that, 25 or 50, and they are segregated and placed in different benches. I think that we may have to do. If you do that, what will happen to the other students?
Exactly.
So we may have to develop different models and even more models than what I am going to say. So we can say that some people who have access to internet will constantly be on online mode, and remaining who do not have access will come to class every day. And sometimes we sweep that and bring the other group outside and something like that. This is one model. Second model is why we all are constrained by the thought that learning takes place in the only classrooms. I think in the entire curriculum, whatever is the content, you cover some of that very important principles and ask students to do experiments on their own outside, learn by themselves. Life is all about lifelong learning. So why can't we start experimenting it right from the day one in the colleges itself? So I think this is another way of doing it. Third is you give teamwork. You let 5 students together identify challenging problems. In the process, they will learn many things. I'll give you a concrete example. In my previous stint at Pune, you referred earlier in the College of Engineering, Pune, I was there. And students came forward and said they would like to develop a nano satellite. Right. They neither have any laboratory to do with that and nothing was there. So the laboratory workshop was handed over to them. And they themselves on their own started learning, discussing amongst themselves, and created a satellite with no help from any faculty. I'm telling you. I think that learning possibility we have ignored altogether. I think that is where the strength of our students and young generation lies. We must use that.
Right. Just another question. Can we hope to have a fully online, full-time engineering degree at any point of time in India?
No, not immediately, I told already. So we
Yeah.
are gradually increasing the percentage from 20 to 40%, which I have already said earlier. But as we go along, more virtual labs and connect with the people, many aspects will start getting covered. I think more and more online will happen. But I am reflecting some other aspect other than just the content of the engineering curriculum. But
Yeah.
what about values, ethics,
Yeah.
sports, cultural activities, drama, dance, music,
Right.
painting? These are all finer aspects of life which you get in the campus. You
Yeah.
can't do it alone by sitting in a room like this in front of a computer screen. You will be devoid of all these things.
Right.
And those human beings are absolutely absurd human beings, I'm telling you. So, for developing holistic human beings, we need to come together, we need to interact with each other. Maybe because of present restrictions of COVID-19 times, we may bring lesser number of students at one time, but all of them should come by rotation to the institution. They must see the brick and mortar university and learn many things here.
So, as it is, one of the criticisms of our engineering graduates is that they lack soft skills, the interface with the world and these particular aspects that you just mentioned. So, is there going to be some way that we can enhance that?
See, soft skills can be enhanced by a variety of ways. One of the ways is in a classroom itself. When we talk about blended learning or flipped classroom, you tell students that you watch a video of that particular topic and come prepared.
Right.
So now, having come prepared, you ask students whether you have learned everything properly, you have understood everything.
Right.
Maybe there are three possible answers. People will
Right.
say, we have understood everything. Then if they have understood everything, pick up one guy and say that you explain to us now. So
Right.
then he will start, fumbling sometime and then start communicating somehow. So secondly, if someone says he has not understood, you ask other says understood, you explain to him. So I think this is one way of doing it. Then outside, many activities. I think many soft skills are possible through variety of games actually. You take them outside the classroom, in the playground, in the open spaces, and then you can also ask them to create a play on the concept of the class that we have covered. I will tell you the first in, first out, and last in, first out systems in management. People can dramatize, and it will get embedded in the student's mind for lifelong. Actually, such concepts.
True.
Dr. Vaidya?
Yeah, I fully agree. As Professor Sahasrabudhe was saying that, you don't have one model that fits all types of institutions. And as he rightly pointed out, there'll be more models that will come out autogeneously.
Right.
But from your last almost 3 months of experience of this lockdown and how the policymakers have responded, how institutions have responded, people, how they have responded, how they have improvised on the processes, what are the learning experiences as a policymaker? I mean, what do you feel? Have we done enough? Have institutions responded, based on your experience? Do you think it's adequate? Or are there any learning experiences from the response mechanisms that you have seen as a policymaker?
I think institutions and students responded fairly well, but of course, problems, and therefore they used to come to us and say that this is not possible, that's not possible. Those kind of mails were coming constantly to us and trying to address them. But nevertheless, at least a big change in the attitude of the people is visible actually, which was not there. It was a very slow process in educational institutions, although industry used to change very fast. So I think now educational institutions under education 4.0, like industry 4.0, are also beginning to change rapidly. And if you don't do it, you will become a dinosaurs. So I think in the theory of evolution, if you don't change, I think you are left behind. I think that is also what is visible clearly in terms of that. So I have a mixed baggage. So therefore, policymakers looking at all of this, is not totally changing immediately. We need to give enough spaces for all our people, because there's a lot of infrastructural development required, a lot of input in terms of finances is required, in terms of training of faculty is required in the new norm. And therefore, this should be a gradual process. If you suddenly do it, probably we will collapse. And therefore, this example of 20 to 40% of the credit transfer itself, one concrete example going or moving forward in the policy direction.
So definitely you think that this has created some policy catalysis. So this will catalyze as we move forward. So as an educational institution or as students in education institutions, what is one major big bang announcement you think we can expect?
There are many big bang announcements. For example, prior to COVID itself, one of the announcements which was made, very interesting one, was for providing internships in the various government bodies in terms of city and town and what we call as municipal bodies, So, and including up to smart cities. Yesterday only our minister and Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs launched a portal with 45,000 internships being made available on that portal, right from a small town to a large city. So I think this is where the real problems of life, which the industry and society is facing, will be known to the student, whether it is in hygiene, whether healthcare, whether education, whether it is supply of electricity, the road maintenance, each one of those challenging problems, and how do we need to address them. One is they learn that, and secondly, they will contribute by bringing in some out-of-the-box solutions to that. So it is a win-win situation for both sides. This is a beginning. So this was a big announcement. And similarly, in the process of this 100 universities being allowed online is another area which has been announced. As we go along, we learn lessons and start making announcements, policy announcements. And most interestingly, our new national education policy is around the corner. There are many things which people will think that it is because of COVID, but wide of COVID also it was going to be there. Many interesting things. People will know very soon how effective this new education policy is going to be, and that will help fight all of these kind of problems which are likely to come in the future as well.
True.
Dr. Sahasrabudhe, there's been quite a delay in the new education policy. We've been hearing of its arrival for some time now. When do you see it likely to happen?
I hope it is going to come up very soon, because HRD minister has also announced, and it had already gone to the cabinet once, and then some reviews are asked to be made. Probably any time it is likely to come once. And suddenly this COVID crisis came. Otherwise, probably by this time it would have been there. The last 3 months is actually firefighting for the government and all bodies actually. Whether state governments, central government.
And likewise, if you had noticed, yesterday the Times Higher Education Asia rankings was released. We had good number of Indian institutions figuring in that, including SASTRA, I will say with some humility. Now, likewise, in the NIRF, which is the Indian ranking system, do you think there is going to be more pronounced effect of these digital footprints in campus that need to be captured in the ranking framework, which I think is not fully captured? And now that we are going to stress on online and digital, how are digital footprints in campus going to get captured in these ranking mechanisms? Do you have any idea about that, or can you suggest something?
First of all, Vaidya, I'm sorry, I should have congratulated you in the beginning itself for the Times Higher Education ranking, where you are the place. But better late than never. So I'm congratulating you formally now in front of everyone. And secondly, as you rightly pointed out in our NIRF footprint, whatever parameters were decided about 4 years ago, they were based on certain presumptions at that point in time. And like we say, curriculum has to be revised continuously. Ranking system also needs to be revised based on the requirements of the day, the society's expectations, aspirations, and all that. So I'm sure there will be parameters which will come in, which will have great significance on the digital platform and digital usage and all that. But more important than that, what is more important probably is we all talk about in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. How green are the campus is going to become more pronounced in the years to come.
Right.
Whether it is in terms of usage of minimal resources, whether it is in terms of recycling, whether it is in terms of energy which is within the campus. These parameters also need to become prominent and important so that we drive home the importance of all this, not only in institutions, because students learn from here, and wherever they go, wherever in the industry or government, they will start practicing that. And this is one of the reasons why many private companies give a lot of software free of cost, because students are trained in that, and whichever company they go, they will buy that software because they're used to it.
Yeah. And the calibrated response mechanism to this online, because all these 3 months, everybody seemed to have created a euphoric feeling that, it's going to be online as we move forward. But I feel that that's not going to be the case. And you have also highlighted this in many of the previous meetings as well. If you look at the journey of the Indian higher education itself, we had originally, the world's university was in India, so Takshashila or Nalanda, and then over a period of time we had colonial universities, which were basically European models adapted in Asian colonies, and then we had nationalist institutions like IISc, BHU, and then post-independence we had IITs, and then we had public state universities and private universities, now liberal arts. So now we are at a crossroads where now online education is just picking up its pace. But I feel that these universities will continue to exist with online education being visibly present across all these models. So how do different universities calibrate themselves to welcome online education? Is it going to be the same way in which all universities will welcome online education, or you think different universities will characterize this entry in their own ways? So what is your message to universities? How do we calibrate the entry, and how do we handle this online education?
As you also pointed out some time ago, that each university should have that flexibility, freedom, autonomy, and same cap fits all is not going to be there. And therefore, naturally, we should allow that flexibility. But how one has to progress forward is because of such crisis. In the future crisis, if it emerges, we must be fully prepared. You may not go fully online, but at least the phenomenon of online education, we cannot give away, or we say that we don't want to do it. I think online is as required as the face-to-face mode. So people have to understand that and gradually move upwards in the value chain in terms of doing better in the online part of it. This is the first thing which we all have to do it. Even online examination, in fact, online mentoring, online. By the way, there are some tools where we talk about ragging, we talk about psychological problems. There have been software and also companies who give online counseling actually. And they are found to be more powerful than physical counseling. I was surprised actually. I thought always that psychology or counseling face-to-face is more powerful. That veil which is there between the counselor and the counseling person, so that will help them in opening up faster in the online platform sometimes. And therefore, one of the questions which was asked in some other platform for me was, there are people who do not ask any questions. How do you do it in online? I said that does not happen even in the regular class. So not all students ask questions. Even though that comes in their mind that there is some problem, they are diffident. They feel that the question may be so poor in quality that people will laugh at me, and therefore they don't even ask that question. So I think what is needed is opening up, and making them feel comfortable. In terms of the teacher is not going to take me to task, but he's going to be my friend, philosopher, guide, and help me. I think once that philosophy, psychology builds up in a student, whether it is online, offline, doesn't matter. He will come to you and take the advice, guidance, and then he'll argue. See, the best part is if a student comes and argues with the principal or the director and the vice chancellor, I think we have made it. So that means he is not afraid of the hierarchy and all that, and he is open up. And then he gets convinced also. When you allow him to have his space and our words, he knows that we have that wisdom of 20 years, 30 years, then he will finally appreciate that. I think that is what is required in our structure.
True. So having said that, since you are expecting institutions to prepare ourselves online moving forward, how do the norms and standards, will they also keep changing so that there is also an increasing requirement of online and digital assets in addition to the physical infrastructure? So are we going to see a very good blend mix? Because now we know there is this online libraries, journals, all of that is there. So that's creating access. But how do we, in the learning experience that we had so far, what are your norms and standards going to be as we move forward that's going to encourage creation of digital assets in campuses?
See, when we started with the change in the approval process handbook, I'm talking about AICTE per se.
Yeah.
Maybe UGC has to follow suit later. But in terms of physical infrastructure, in terms of number of classrooms, the number of laboratories, all of that is reduced. Sharing of facilities is allowed. Sharing of the library between two institutions, of the same group is allowed. Playground, canteen, and cycle stand. See, earlier we were expecting everything to be separate, as though the cycle being put here in this stand and that stand from a different college is going to create some big, hassle. So from that we have moved on, and today the importance on physical infrastructure is also necessary, and that is there, but it is getting reduced. While there is an emphasis on increased online in terms of library books, in terms of online journals, in terms of number of computers, in terms of the bandwidth. Most important thing today is Wi-Fi connectivity across the campus, and a high bandwidth. And that is the significant thing. And that will certainly keep on going on increasing, while the other part will keep on decreasing. I think that is the new norm as far as the policy is concerned in terms of higher education.
Dr. Vaidya, last couple of questions, and then we'll.
No, madam, the last part I have still not answered.
Sorry.
Having said all this, what is significant and most important is how do we train our faculty to use this digital infrastructure?
Correct.
That students are well versed with most of these things. They are ready to use. But we have to prepare our faculty, and therefore faculty development programs in flipped learning or digital, or learning, we are bringing in a big way. At least we have held 50 odd workshops in the COVID times, and more than 2,000, 3,000, faculty wanted to appear. We sometimes restricted, sometimes they are 800, 500 in number in each workshop, and more than 15, 20,000 faculty are trained. I think this is way forward. This is how we have to go ahead.
Yeah.
Dr. Vaidya, last question.
Okay, the last question was, now that we see a lot of reverse migration in terms of the migrant laborers getting back to home state, so there's a lot of skills that's available. Now, as a policy maker, is there a way where we can formalize these skills? I'm talking about vocational education. Now, how do we vocationalize and formalize these skilled laborers who otherwise, are skilled but don't have a formal recognition mechanism? So can we reach out to them? How do we vocationalize this? Diplomas and certificates, can it be further democratized so that institutions can go train them and then kind of empower them with certificates so that they also get a recognition for the skills that they have? And I think moving forward, there is going to be a demand for that. So how are you going to vocationalize and make sure it is democratized also?
In fact, the feature of prior skill identification and evaluation does exist in the National Skill Qualification Framework, NSQF. Under NSQF, there is already the prior skill evaluation does exist. For example, I have stopped education at the level of class 5. And I had gone to a garage and learned how to repair an automobile. Okay. And I worked there for 20 years. I know a rich experience. Automobile engineer with a bachelor's and master's. If an automobile is given to him with some sound and noise coming, he will have to struggle to identify. He will bring in some kind of noise measuring equipment. He will place it here, there. I'm a noise control engineer. That's why I'm taking my example. So I will go everywhere and then try to find out where the location of that sound is. But whereas that mechanic, he will say that I will take a small round, 100 meters he will drive and he will bring it back, open something and says, it is here. I think this skill set which an ordinary person with a limited education has. In terms of skill, he has graduated to a higher level. I
Exactly.
think how do we measure that and how do
Correct.
we evaluate that and give credits to that? And he may
Correct.
be found wanting in terms of general education,
Correct.
of speaking ability, writing ability, in terms of English, Hindi, Tamil, etc., which we need to give him also, so that he will be on par with the ITI qualified student. Because ITI is a formal qualification.
Correct.
So can we take him to the same level? I think this does exist already, in fact, but we have not been able to use it. The reason is we are always skeptical about what will happen, who will say what, and therefore we are always afraid of taking, bull by the horn. So I think the time has come to really recognize. And very interestingly, people went from one place to the other place in the last 15 days. Earlier, they were not allowed. They were all very unhappy. And now that they have gone, many states have started mapping their skills. For example, Uttar Pradesh has received the largest number of people from Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and everywhere. So what they're doing is, while they are coming in, they are getting their forms filled. What is the expertise that he has? And either in that domain or a related domain, can we give him further skills, fine tune him, finish him, and then make use of him? I think these are the things which are likely to happen, and we'll have to move forward together, whether it is government or private sector. If we all put in our efforts, I'm sure we will come out of this crisis which we went through in the last 3 months, and we will show the world the glory of India, that is Takshila Nalanda of the world, is again brought back to same level of glory in the future of education.
We are bouncing back stronger, no doubt about it.
With the Shastras of the world. Yeah, Dr. Sahasrabudhe, just a couple of one last question from a viewer, Arun Shekhar. Will there be a cap on fee hikes this year? Can colleges raise fees to stave off the loss of income during the lockdown months?
Yeah, I think in the lockdown months, colleges have not suffered much.
Right.
It is only the students have suffered, and sometimes because institutions have not paid the salary, faculty have suffered.
Right.
I don't think any institution itself has suffered. I'm very critical. I'm telling you, because this pandemic happened and close down happened in somewhere around in March 25.
Yeah.
And prior to that, the entire year has gone by. So all students who were supposed to pay the fees would have already paid the fees.
Exactly.
There could be always some exceptions. There may be exceptions of some 10, 20 students out of 10,000 students or 5,000 students who may not have paid fees, and which happens annually. It is not this year. Many poor students will ask for time for paying the fees. Sometimes they crib about it, cry, and institutions also waive them off. All this is a regular process in all educational institutions. So something that they have missed out is not correct. What we have said is, even for the future, for the next academic year, don't ask for advance fee. In many institutions, especially management institutions, which are postgraduate diploma institutions, they used to charge fees for 4 months in advance. And that is what we have said, that and if they don't pay within a given deadline, their admissions used to get cancelled and they used to offer the seat to another person. Now that the entire session itself is going to be deferred, so don't force, because many students take bank loan to pay this fee. It is not that everyone has money in their bank account or pockets. Many students, except some top 20% whose parents have high income, they may be able to pay the fees and book the seats, but the rest of the people will have to struggle to make that, two ends meet, and therefore they'll have to go to the bank, take the loan. We are only asking for deferred payment, number one. Number two, we are asking, don't rise the fees. So every year there is some marginal rise which happens. This time, you should not put in that rising of the fees as far as possible. The reason being, when you are able to run with the amount last year, you should be able to run this year as well. That is what we have been advocating, and therefore there is no worry on the part of the managements of the institution. But I want to assure the faculty and students that they are not to be worried.
Dr. Sahasrabudhe, before we go, I wanted to ask you a cheeky question, if I may. How often have you been asked, were you the role model for the principal in Three Idiots, because he's also named Dr. Sahasrabudhe, if you remember, played by Baman Irani.
No, but I have told in informal sessions to many people,
Huh.
but I don't know whether I should speak out in such
Please do.
uh, very interestingly, I was the director of College of Engineering, Pune.
Right.
And our institute is 160-year-old.
Right.
In 1854, and had a grand stone building structure for the main building.
Right.
Many film directors used to come for renting out the facility for creating the film.
Oh,
And
right.
the institute, even prior to my joining, was giving it. Post my joining, I also gave to a couple of directors for shooting the movie. But my experience was very bad because I don't blame them, because the whole film industry is like that. So
Right.
when they come, they have a big crew. Someone will put something here, there, and someone will smoke
Yeah,
inside
and
the
it's a
campus.
heritage building.
And a heritage building. So I took a decision to stop giving the hall for film shooting, and that was known to my clerical staff. So they were stopping at their level itself.
Okay.
Because initially they used to send me, and then after my bad experience, I stopped it.
Right.
Because I told you, literally they were littering the whole premises,
Yeah.
and the whole work ethics culture will be lost actually.
Right.
If they were doing it fairly, I would have probably continued, I'm telling you frankly. So, Idiots team had apparently come. I don't know. I have not met him directly.
Okay.
So, this is the story I also have learned. So, that's why I'm saying that this is also from one of my cousins in Mumbai,
Huh.
who told me after asking to some of the people involved in the film, because he was having some connect, and they asked this. He asked this question: how did you name Sahasrabudhe in that film?
Yeah.
So the answer given was, that is what it is. So we went there, and the clerk told us that you will not get the hall for the rentals, and so you have to go. They were very upset that they wanted a heritage-like type of a building, and they were moving around in the campus. The director's home, that is quarter, bungalow, had a nameplate, Sahasrabudhe. They must have written that. And they thought this principle is not allowing, this is a good way of taking revenge, So, and therefore they put this character, Sahasrabudhe, as the principal of the college, actually. That's what the story I have heard. And then, very interestingly, I met Sonam Wangchuk, who
Right.
is in Ladakh.
Yeah.
He is on the AICTE board of education. Actually, we have boards of studies for different domains.
Right.
So he is one of the fantastic persons.
Yeah.
He has a great school in Ladakh.
Yes.
And the inspiration for that movie is
Sonam Wangchuk.
you know that.
Yes, yes.
So I asked him that, so you are also part of this. This is what happened with me. And he told me that I also did not allow them to film, in my, so they have done it elsewhere. They came to me also for screening that movie here, shooting this movie. And I also didn't. So I said, despite that, they have portrayed you in a better way, and they have not portrayed me in a good way. This is what I joked.
On that lovely note, thank you so much for being so good and for answering all our questions so well. Thank you very much for being with us. And thank you, Dr. Vaidya. You added so much gravitas to the conversation. Thank you for being so good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaveree and Vaidya. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Vanakkam.
Yes,
Vanakkam.
and all the very best.